सरकार वो हैं जो अल्लाह के दिल में बंदे की मोहब्बत डाल देते हैं. This has taken hold in me. Can you please share some more about this? Well, principally, a saint of God is appointed by God Himself. And the only purpose of a saint of God is to spiritually assist those who have been chosen by God. And what is this spiritual assistance? Initiating them into spirituality. Now, remember, we have already discussed this before, that on the primordial time, when God asked all the souls, "Am I not your Lord?" and all replied with one voice, "Yes," and we bear witness to that truth. After this affirmation was taken, and the luxuries of the world and the luxuries of the paradise were put on display, and the souls were then asked to make a choice. And after all the souls had made their choices, God then put all the souls to sleep. Okay? All the souls were put to sleep. And whilst you are still sleeping there, your soul is sent and take birth in this world. And the soul is still dormant, sleeping in you. Now, you are supposed to find a Murshid Kamil who can then transmit some divine energy in your heart. Because all the souls are enclosed in one box, and that box is called qalb. So when the spiritual mentor transmit divine energy, positive energy, divine energy, Noor Ilahi, into the heart, it wakes it up, right? So when it is awakened, it is then taught to vibrate with God's name. When God's name is pronounced inside the heart repeatedly, as a result of this continuous repetition, divine energy is produced. And that divine energy will not only purify your heart, but it will also strengthen your heart. And the spiritual growth of your heart will start. Okay? So now this is subject to approval by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because in Quran, Allah Rabbul Izzat said, "Inna Allah yahdi fahuwa al-muhtad." Only those will find guidance whom God will want to be guided. Okay? So whether one is going to be guided or is left misguided does not depend on individuals. It directly depends on God's will and accord. If God is willing to grant guidance to somebody, that person will find a spiritual mentor, and that spiritual mentor will then, seeing that God agrees, he will then transmit divine energy in your heart, which will awaken the heart. Now, in cases where individuals come to a spiritual mentor, having heard of what spirituality is, having heard what spiritual heart is, they feel interested and they want to come closer to God. And they decide that they love God. They want to love God. And they come to the spiritual mentor. But God has not decided to give them guidance. God has made up His mind. He doesn't want to guide certain individuals. Okay? Now, if it is the case, then no prophet, no messenger of God, no saint of God can do anything. Hands up. Like marriages. If a girl says, "I don't want to marry this man," end of the story. Now, if you live in Pakistan, you can ask your daughter at gunpoint to marry that guy. That's a different story. But in a normal civilized world, If the girl says no or the boy says no, that's the end of the story, right? So when the messengers of God, when the prophets of God, saints of God know that God does not want to guide certain individuals, they will not say yes to them. For the first time in history, Sarkar Gohar Shahi has changed the course of truth, right? Because prior to His Holiness Gohar Shahi, all these spiritual dignitaries were teaching hearts of people to love God. But His Holiness Gohar Shahi has such tremendous understanding of divinity, such tremendous tricks to dispense justice, that when he sees this man has been deprived of loving God because God doesn't want him, so His Holiness will then improve love for that man in the heart of God. You did not hear this sentence before. Why? Because it never happened. Changing heart of people is very commonly heard. But changing heart of God for individuals, that is extra unique. Why is it extra unique? Because it is confined to His Holiness Gohar Shahi only. Nobody has done it in the past. Nobody will ever do in future. It is confined to His Holiness Gohar Shahi alone. Because I remember we were in Ireland in a county called Antrim in Northern Ireland. I think in 1997 or maybe 1999. And one day we were all gathered outside the house where Sarkar was staying. And Sarkar was standing by the window. Sarkar opened the window and Sarkar said, "How is everybody?" "Everybody's good." We had a meeting with Allah.